I got back from the Middle East on a Thursday morning with a duffel bag, a headache, and bruises I had no intention of explaining. Not the kind you get from falling downstairs. The kind you learn to hide without even thinking about it. I pulled my coat tighter as I walked through the terminal, blending in with people arguing about baggage fees and Starbucks orders, and really, that part always felt strange to me. Everything looked so normal, but my body was still wired for something else. My phone buzzed before I even reached the parking lot. Mom. I let it ring twice before I answered. Valerie, she said, already crying. Not sniffles. Full performance. Please don't hang up. I leaned against my car and closed my eyes for a second. I just landed. I know. But we need to talk. All of us. As a family. That word, family. It always appeared when they wanted something. Dad got on the line next. His voice was softer than usual, almost careful. We've made mistakes, Val. Your mother and I, we want to fix things. I didn't answer right away. I hadn't heard that tone from him in years. Then Mom jumped back in. Chloe invited us all to her place this weekend. Just a quiet dinner. No drama. Please come. We miss you, Chloe. That explained the hesitation in Dad's voice. I stared at the snow starting to fall across the parking lot. Thin at first, then heavier. The kind that sticks. I hadn't been to Chloe's house in the Catskills. I had only seen pictures. Big place. Modern. The kind of house that tries too hard to look effortless. I'm tired, I said. We know, Mom replied quickly. That's why this is perfect. You can rest here. Just give us one chance. I should have said no, but really, the truth is, exhaustion makes people agree to things instinctively. And that is exactly what happened. Instead, I heard myself say, fine, I'll come. The drive upstate took longer than expected. The snow got worse the farther I went. By the time I turned onto Chloe's road, visibility had dropped enough that I had to slow to a crawl. The house sat alone, surrounded by trees and too much silence. Lights were on inside, warm and inviting, like the cover of a magazine, but the stillness around it felt wrong. I parked, grabbed my coat, and stepped out into the cold. Chloe opened the door before I knocked. She looked exactly like I remembered. Perfect hair, perfect makeup, perfect smile that never reached her eyes. Well, look who decided to show up, she said. Good to see you too, I replied. She stepped aside and let me in. Wow, still wearing that, she added, nodding at my coat. It's winter, I said. She laughed like I had told a joke. I meant the whole military vibe. You know, the bargain bin patriot look. I didn't respond. I just walked past her into the living room. Dad stood up when he saw me. Mom followed, already emotional again. They both hugged me like they were trying to prove something. You look thin, Mom said. You look the same, I answered. Dinner started about 20 minutes later. Derek joined us, smiling, shaking my hand like we were meeting at a networking event. Valerie, finally. Heard a lot about you. Hope it was interesting, I said. He chuckled. Depends who you ask. We sat down. The table looked expensive. Everything did. The plates, the glassware, the chairs, the room itself. Chloe poured wine for everyone except me. Oh, right, she said, pausing. Do they let you drink in whatever it is you do? I manage, I said. She smirked and took a sip. The conversation stayed polite for about 5 minutes. Then Chloe got bored. So tell me, she said, leaning back. What do you actually do all day? Paperwork? Filing things? Or do they let you hold a clipboard now? Dad cleared his throat. Chloe, no, I'm serious, she said. I just don't get it. You've been in the military for years and you still dress like you're making minimum wage. I took a bite of food before answering. It's not a fashion show. Well, it shows, she said. Derek laughed under his breath. I looked at my parents. Neither of them said anything. And really, that told me everything I needed to know. The rest of dinner followed the same pattern. Chloe talking, Derek backing her up, my parents staying quiet unless it was to change the subject. At one point, Mom stood up suddenly. Oh, I forgot, we have that early appointment tomorrow. Dad nodded. We should get going before the roads get worse. I looked out the window. The storm had picked up. Visibility was nearly gone. You're leaving now? I asked. It's fine, Mom said quickly. We'll be careful. They didn't even finish their plates. They grabbed their coats, hugged me again like it meant something, and walked out into the storm. I watched their headlights disappear down the driveway, and something about it settled wrong in my chest. Immediately, I turned back toward the house. Chloe was already clearing dishes like nothing had happened. "You staying the night?" she asked casually. "I was thinking about it," I said. "Good," she replied. "Guest room's ready." Derek glanced at me. "Roads are pretty bad anyway. Probably safer here." I nodded slowly. "Yeah, probably." A few minutes later, I reached for my bag. It wasn't there. I checked the chair, the hallway, the entry table. Nothing. My phone was gone too. I walked back into the kitchen. "Where's my stuff?" Chloe didn't look up. "What stuff?" "My bag. My phone. My keys." Derek leaned against the counter. "You probably left it in the car." "I didn't." Chloe finally turned to face me. "Relax. You're acting paranoid." I held her gaze. "Where is it?" She smiled. Slow, calm. "Wrong." "Why don't you check the basement?" she said. "Breaker's been acting up all day. Maybe the lights messed with you." And right on cue, the lights flickered. Then they went out. The house dropped into darkness. I didn't move for a second. Then I walked toward the basement door. Behind me, I could hear Chloe and Derek shifting, quiet and controlled. I opened the door and stepped down the stairs. Cold air hit me halfway down. The basement was empty. Concrete walls, no windows. I reached for the breaker panel. That was when I heard it. A sharp, metallic sound from above. The door locking. I turned and ran up the stairs. Too late. I grabbed the handle and pulled. It didn't move. "Chloe," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Open the door." No answer. Then footsteps. Slow, measured, right above me. Derek's voice came first. "You should have stayed overseas." Chloe laughed softly. I stood there in the dark with one hand on the locked door, listening, and that was the moment it clicked. The phone call, the dinner, my parents leaving in a snowstorm, none of it had been real. This was not a reunion. It was a setup, a clean one. No witnesses, no signal, no way out. I stepped back from the door and took a breath, letting the silence settle. Then I looked around the basement again. Concrete, no windows, reinforced door, soundproofed walls. I smiled, just a little. They had really thought this through. And really, that is the part people misunderstand about panic. Panic feels natural, but panic burns oxygen, burns judgment, burns time. Training saves all three, so I got to work. First, space. The basement was not large, maybe 20 by 20 foot. Concrete walls on every side. Low ceiling. Exposed beams. No visible vents big enough to crawl through, only a small duct system too narrow to matter. I walked the perimeter slowly, fingertips brushing the walls. Solid. No seams. No weak points. The kind of construction you do not put into a family home unless you are planning something. Then sound. I knocked twice against one wall. The echo died almost instantly. Soundproofed. Not perfect, but good enough. I pulled my sleeve back and checked my watch. Still ticking. Good. Then, out of habit, I checked for signal. Nothing. Not even a flicker. They had thought about that too. I crouched and scanned the floor. No loose tiles. No drainage grate. Just sealed concrete. I stood up and looked at the door again. Steel. Reinforced hinges. Lock on the outside. No handle on the inside. They did not just want me contained. They wanted me controlled. I leaned against the wall and slowed my breathing until my heart rate settled back into something useful. Chloe always needed an audience. Derek needed money. And my parents, but really, this was the ugliest part. My parents needed comfort. That combination does not create accidents. It creates plans. I did not waste time yelling. There was no point. If they wanted noise, they would come get it. Instead, I conserved energy and waited. Time moved slower in the dark, but not enough to confuse me. I tracked it in my head minute by minute, adjusting to the temperature drop as the night deepened. It got cold fast. By what I estimated was early morning, my breath was visible. Then I heard footsteps again. Closer this time. Deliberate. A lock turned. The door opened. Light spilled in sharp enough to sting my eyes. I did not move. 3 silhouettes stood at the top of the stairs. Chloe, Derek, and someone else. They came down slowly, like they were walking into a performance. The third man stepped forward first. Mid-50s, clean suit, glasses. The kind of calm that does not come from kindness. It comes from practice. "Good morning, Valerie," he said. I didn't answer. Chloe smiled behind him. "See? She's already doing the silent treatment." The man ignored her. "My name is Dr. Silas Thorne. I'm here to help facilitate a conversation." "Funny," I said. "This doesn't feel like a therapy session." Derek chuckled. "It will." They set up a small folding table in the middle of the room like they had rehearsed it. Papers, a pen, a tablet. Chloe gestured toward the chair. "Sit." I stayed where I was. "Doctor." Thorne did not push. "Standing is fine. We can proceed." He opened a file slowly. "Valerie, we understand you've had a demanding career. High-stress environments, extended exposure to combat zones. I've handled worse than this room," I said. "I'm sure you believe that," he replied calmly. That word. Believe. There it was. Derek stepped in, impatient now. "Let's skip the lecture." He leaned forward, hands on the table. "I'm in trouble," he said bluntly. "Big trouble. Millions. Deals went bad. People want their money back." I looked at him. "So you locked me in your basement." Chloe crossed her arms. "Don't act surprised. You always thought you were better than us." "This isn't about that," Derek snapped. "This is about survival." He tapped the papers. "You have a trust. Grandpa set it up. It unlocks next week when you turn 30. I didn't react. Chloe smirked. "Oh, she didn't know we knew. I assumed you'd find out eventually," I said. "Well, we found out now," Derek replied. "And we need it." "Need?" I repeated. He leaned closer. "You signed these documents. Full authorization. Transfer of control. We handle the rest." I glanced at the papers without moving. "And if I don't?" Chloe stepped forward, smile widening. "That's where this gets interesting." Dr. Thorne slid a second folder across the table and turned it toward me. Medical reports. Official formatting. Clean typography. Stamped signatures. Fake, but good fake. Psychiatric evaluation, he said. Comprehensive. Documented over several sessions. "I've never met you before," I said. He nodded slightly. "That's correct." Chloe leaned in beside him. "But the court won't care about that part." I scanned the first page. PTSD. Severe. Paranoid delusions. Self-harm risk. I almost laughed. Dr. Thorne continued in the same level voice. "The recommendation is clear. You are not in a position to manage your own financial or personal decisions." Derek picked up the thread. "Which means the court appoints a guardian." Chloe raised her hand slightly like she was volunteering in class. Me. There it was. Clean, legal, controlled. I looked up at her. "You really think this holds up?" She tilted her head. "You're in a basement. No phone, no witnesses, and a licensed doctor saying you're unstable." Dr. Thorne did not react. Chloe's voice sharpened. "You refuse to sign. We file this. You lose everything anyway, just slower." I stepped closer to the table, picked up the file, flipped through it once. Detailed dates, observations, all fabricated, all believable. Then I set it back down. "No," I said. Derek's jaw tightened. "No?" "No." Silence filled the room for a second. Then the shift came. Derek kicked the table hard enough to flip it. Papers scattered across the floor. "You don't get to say no," he snapped. I didn't flinch. Chloe's smile faded. Just a little. "You're not understanding the situation." "I understand it perfectly," I said. "You're desperate." Derek took a step toward me. "You think this is a game?" "No," I replied. "I think it's sloppy." That did it. He turned and slammed his hand against the wall. "Fine." Then he looked at Chloe. "Turn it off." She hesitated. "Are you sure?" "Do it." She walked to the control panel near the stairs and flipped a switch. A low hum died instantly. The heater. The temperature dropped fast, faster than the night before. Derek looked back at me, breathing hard. "You'll sign when it matters." I held his gaze. "Or you'll run out of time." For a second I saw it, the doubt. Then it disappeared. "Enjoy the cold," Chloe said, heading back toward the stairs. "Doctor." Thorne gathered his files without looking at me. The three of them walked out. The door slammed shut. The lock clicked again, and the heat stayed off. I stood there in the silence, watching my breath form in the air. They thought pressure would break me. But really, they did not understand what pressure actually feels like. So I sat down on the cold concrete, leaned back against the wall, and waited for them to learn. I slid down against the wall and let the cold hit me on purpose. You do not fight cold by panicking. You fight it by managing it. First, I adjusted my breathing. Slow, controlled, steady. Then I pulled my arms in tight, reducing exposure, conserving heat. I shifted position every few minutes to keep circulation moving. Feet tucked in, hands under my arms, core protected. Pain came next. Not sharp, not dramatic, just constant. The kind that tries to wear you down quietly. Good. That meant I was still thinking clearly. Upstairs, the house began waking up. Footsteps. Cabinets opening. A door slamming harder than it needed to. Then voices, muffled, but not enough. You said this would be done already. A man's voice. Not Derek. A phone call. I told you I'm handling it. Derek shot back. Lower and tense. You don't have time to handle anything. You owe us. Silence for a second. Then something hit a wall. I said I'm fixing it. The line went dead. I leaned my head back and closed my eyes for a moment. That was not stress. That was pressure. The kind that does not wait. A few minutes later, Chloe's voice cut through again. You're losing it, she said. I'm calm. Derek snapped. No, you're not. You're making mistakes. I wouldn't be in this position if I just what? She interrupted. This was your idea. Another silence. Heavier this time. Then footsteps pacing. She'll sign, Chloe said finally. She has to. I opened my eyes. There it was. Not confidence. Repetition. And really that matters. People repeat things when they are trying to convince themselves. Time passed. Hard to measure exactly, but enough for the cold to settle deeper into my muscles. I did not waste energy thinking about escape routes that were not there. Instead, I focused on patterns. Voices upstairs came and went. Phone calls. Movement. Restlessness. Derek was spiraling. Chloe was holding the line. That imbalance mattered. By what I estimated was late afternoon, my body had adjusted enough to function without shaking. That was when I heard something different. Glass breaking. Then shouting. You don't talk to me like that, Derek yelled. I'll talk however I want, Chloe fired back. You're the one who screwed this up. You think I wanted this? He shouted. You think I enjoy owing people who don't ask twice? A pause, then quieter but sharper. We needed a solution, Chloe said, and she is the solution. I shifted slightly, listening closer. If she doesn't sign, Derek started. She will, Chloe cut in. And if she doesn't? Silence again. Then Chloe's voice dropped colder than the basement itself. Then we make her. I exhaled slowly. That was the shift. Up until then, this had still been a plan. But now it was turning into desperation. And desperation makes people sloppy. Night came back without warning. The temperature dropped again, sharper this time. My muscles were tight, but functional. Then footsteps. Heavy. Fast. The lock turned. The door swung open. Derek came down alone. No suit this time. No controlled smile. Just anger. In one hand, an iron bar about 2 foot long. Solid. In the other, a tablet. He did not say anything at first. He just walked down the stairs, each step louder than the last. I stood up slowly. Rough day? I asked. He stopped halfway across the room. You think this is funny? No, I replied. I think it's predictable. His grip tightened on the bar. You done playing games? He tossed the tablet onto a chair and stepped closer. Thumbprint, he said, nodding toward the screen. You give me that and we're finished. And if I don't? I asked. His jaw flexed. Then we do this the hard way. I glanced at the bar. That your professional opinion? He moved fast. Faster than before. Anger does that. It speeds people up, makes them feel stronger. But the truth is, it also makes them careless. He swung the bar. I stepped inside the arc before it reached full force. 2 steps. That was all it took. I grabbed his wrist with my left hand, redirected the momentum past me, and rotated. CQC is not about strength. It is about timing. My right hand locked onto his forearm. I pivoted, dropped my weight, and applied pressure at the joint. There was a sharp crack. Derek screamed. The bar hit the floor. Then his knees did too. 2 seconds. That was all it took. I held him there, face down against the concrete, his broken wrist pinned behind him. Now we're done playing games, I said quietly. He gasped, trying to breathe through the pain. I did not let him finish. Footsteps above, fast, panicked. Chloe. She appeared at the top of the stairs, breath sharp, eyes wide. Then she saw Derek and me. Her expression changed instantly. Fear did not come first. Rage did. She disappeared for half a second. Then she came back holding a shotgun. She racked it loud enough to echo. "Let him go," she said. I did not move. "Let him go." Her hands were shaking. Not much, but enough. I calculated distance, angle, reaction time. Too far, too risky. Not with a firearm involved. So I released Derek slowly and stepped back, raising my hands just enough to show compliance. Derek rolled onto his side, clutching his wrist, groaning. Chloe kept the gun trained on me. "You think you're still in control?" she snapped. I tilted my head slightly. "You brought a shotgun into your own house." "I'll use it," she said. "I know," I replied. That threw her off for half a second. Just enough. I stepped back another inch, keeping my posture relaxed. Not submissive. Controlled. Derek struggled to sit up, breathing hard. "She broke it," he said through clenched teeth. "She broke my wrist." Chloe did not look at him. Her eyes stayed on me. "You're done," she said. "You hear me? You don't get to fight back anymore." I nodded once. "Okay." The word hung in the air. Simple, easy, believable. Her shoulders dropped just a fraction. There it was. She wanted submission, control. So I gave her exactly enough of it to make her believe it was real. "Good," she said, lowering the gun slightly. Derek laughed weakly from the floor. Yeah, that's better." I stayed still, watching them. Chloe stepped down one more stair, confidence creeping back into her voice. "See? This is how it was supposed to go." I did not answer. I just stood there, calm and quiet. Exactly what she wanted to see. Because sometimes the fastest way out of a situation is letting the other person think they have already won. I lowered my hands and let my shoulders drop just enough to sell it. Chloe watched me like she had just solved a problem she barely understood. "See?" she said, almost proud. "That wasn't so hard." Derek was still on the floor, sweating, cradling his wrist like it might reattach if he stared at it long enough. I did not look at him. I kept my eyes on Chloe. "Yeah," I said. "You're right." That was all she needed. Control is not about force. It is about belief. And Chloe believed she had it. She stepped fully into the basement now, shotgun still in her hands, but lowered enough to signal confidence instead of fear. "Get up," she said to Derek. "We're done here for now." He struggled to his feet, breathing uneven, face pale. "We're not done," he muttered. "We are for tonight," she snapped. "You're useless like this," he did not argue. That told me everything about the shift in power between them. She turned back to me. "You stay exactly where you are. No more surprises." I nodded once. "Good," she added, satisfied. They left together this time. Slower, less tense. The door shut. The lock clicked. Silence again. I waited. 10 seconds. 30. A full minute. Then I moved. Not fast. Not rushed. Precise. First I checked the stairs. No shadows under the door. No movement above. Then I walked back to the corner where I had been sitting and crouched down. My boots were still on. That was their mistake. They took my phone, my keys, my bag, but they did not understand what mattered. I reached down and slipped my fingers inside the inner lining of my right boot. It took a few seconds to find it. Flat, cold, exactly where I had left it. I pulled it out slowly. A stainless steel mechanical watch. No screen, no lights, no obvious function beyond telling time. To anyone else, it looked like a backup. Something simple, old school. It was not. I turned it over in my hand, feeling the weight, still intact. Good. I sat down again, positioning myself so I could work without being seen if the door opened suddenly. Then I started. The back plate required pressure in one very specific spot. Not obvious unless you knew exactly where to press. I pushed. Nothing. Adjusted the angle, pressed again. A soft click. The casing loosened just enough. I slid my nail along the edge and lifted it carefully. Inside, the mechanism looked normal at first glance. Gears, springs, but tucked beneath it, almost invisible, was the real component. A microtransmitter. Low frequency. Encrypted. Not designed for conversation. Just one signal. Short. Silent. undetectable unless you were listening for it. I did not rush. Timing mattered. I waited until I heard movement upstairs again. Footsteps. A door closing. Distraction. Then I pressed the internal trigger. No sound. No light. No confirmation. Just a signal sent into nothing. Or everything. I held it there for exactly 3 seconds. Then released. That was enough. I reassembled the watch halfway, leaving it loose enough to adjust again if needed. Then I leaned back against the wall, breathing steady. From that point on, it was not about escape, it was about time. Upstairs, Chloe's voice carried faintly. "She's done fighting," she said. "I told you," Derek responded, voice strained. "She broke my wrist." "And now she won't," Chloe snapped. "That's the point. You don't know that." "I do," she said. "I saw it." I almost smiled. People do not see what is real. They see what confirms what they want. Time passed. Not long. Maybe 20 minutes. Then footsteps again. Faster this time. The lock turned. The door opened. Chloe came down alone. No shotgun this time, just confidence. She stopped halfway down the stairs, looking at me like I was already handled. "I figured you'd be hungry," she said. She tossed something toward me. It hit the floor and slid a few inches. A piece of bread. Stale. I looked at it, then back at her. "That's generous." She laughed. "You don't get to be picky." She walked closer, scanning the room like she expected something to be different. Then her eyes landed on the watch in my hand. That was fast. "What's that?" she asked. "Time," I said. She stepped closer, narrowing her eyes. "Give it to me." I did not move. "Give it to me," she repeated, sharper. I held her gaze for a second. Then I handed it over. No hesitation. That caught her off guard. She took it and turned it over in her hand. "A watch," she said. "That's it?" "Pretty much," I replied. She looked at me suspiciously, then back at the watch, her fingers pressed along the casing. "Loose," she noticed. "What did you do to this?" "Nothing," I said. She did not believe me. "Good." She pried the back open with her nail, exposing the inside. Her expression shifted. Confusion first, then irritation. "What is this?" she asked. "Mechanical parts," I replied. She shook her head. "You think I'm stupid?" I did not answer. That made it worse. Her grip tightened. "You're always doing this," she said, "acting like you're smarter than everyone." I leaned back against the wall. "You said that, not me." That was enough. She snapped. With one quick motion, she threw the watch across the room. It hit the concrete wall hard, cracked, then dropped to the floor in pieces. The casing split. Internal components scattered. She stared at it for a second, then laughed. Loud. Sharp. "There," she said. "Whatever that was, gone." I looked at the broken pieces, then back at her. "Yeah, looks that way." She stepped closer, smiling like she had just ended something important. "You really thought you had a way out?" I did not answer, because I did not need to. She shook her head, still smiling. "Unbelievable," she muttered. "All that training, and this is what you came up with." She turned and walked back toward the stairs. Before she reached the top, she paused. "Oh, and just so we're clear," she added, glancing over her shoulder, "no one's coming." Then she disappeared. The door slammed. The lock clicked. Silence filled the room again. I looked at the broken watch on the floor. Pieces scattered. Dead. Useless. At least that was how it looked. I leaned my head back against the wall and closed my eyes for a second. 3 seconds. That was all it took. Upstairs, everything went back to normal. But somewhere far from that basement, something had already changed. They thought they had just destroyed my last option. But really, what they had actually done was make sure someone important finally started paying attention. I woke up to the sound of tires crunching over snow. Not inside the house, outside. I did not move right away. I just listened. Doors. Car doors. Then voices. Different. Not Chloe, not Derek, calm, measured, professional, police. I stood up slowly, ignoring the stiffness in my legs. The cold had settled deep, but I was still functional. Footsteps above. Faster than usual. Chloe. Then Derek. His voice strained but controlled. "Act normal." "I am normal," Chloe snapped quietly. A knock echoed through the house. Firm. Official. I stepped closer to the basement door, just enough to hear better. Another knock. "Sheriff's Department," a voice called out. "We got a report of a disturbance last night." Silence for a beat. Then the front door opened. Chloe's voice changed instantly. Soft, shaky, perfect. "Oh, officers. Thank God," she said, her voice breaking just enough to sound real. "I was hoping someone would come." I almost smiled. She was good. "Ma'am, we had a neighbor report a loud noise. Possible gunshot," one of the officers said. "Oh my God!" Chloe replied, letting out a small, embarrassed laugh. "That was me. I'm so sorry." I panicked. "Panicked? My sister," she said, voice dropping. "She's not well. She had an episode last night. I was scared she might hurt herself, so I grabbed the shotgun." A pause. "Is anyone hurt?" the officer asked. No, Chloe said quickly. "Everything's under control now. I just didn't know what else to do." Footsteps shifted. The officers were inside. "Mind if we take a look around?" the second officer asked. "Of course not," Chloe said. "Please." I stepped back slightly from the door. Timing mattered here too. I did not want to sound desperate. Desperate people get dismissed. Footsteps moved across the floor above me, slower now, observing. Then Derek's voice joined in. Calm, confident, practiced. "Officers, sorry about the confusion. It's been a rough couple of days." "You the husband?" one of them asked. "Yes, sir." "What exactly is going on here?" A pause. Then Derek lowered his voice just enough to sound serious. "My sister-in-law is a veteran. She's been dealing with severe PTSD. It's gotten worse recently." I leaned my head slightly toward the door. There it was. "Last night she had a breakdown," he continued. "We had to secure her for her own safety." "Secure her how?" the officer asked. Another pause. Then Chloe again. "We have a reinforced basement. We use it as a safe room. She's down there now, resting. I exhaled slowly. "Do you have documentation?" one of the officers asked. "Of course," Chloe replied quickly. Footsteps again, papers being handed over. I could picture it without seeing it. Clean pages, official stamps, doctor, Silas Thorne's name at the bottom. Silence stretched for a few seconds while the officers read. Then one of them spoke. "This says she's a risk to herself." "Yes," Chloe said softly, "and sometimes others. We're just trying to keep her safe." "Has she been treated recently?" Derek answered this time. "Yes, ongoing evaluation." Another pause. Then footsteps, closer now, toward the basement door. My pulse stayed steady. The lock turned. The door opened. Light hit the room again. Two officers stood at the top of the stairs, both mid-40s. Local. Not federal. Not military. One of them stepped down halfway, scanning the space. His eyes landed on me. I did not move. I did not speak first. I did not rush toward him. I just stood there, controlled, aware, alive. "You Valerie?" he asked. "Yes." He studied me for a second, taking in the bruises, the cold, the environment. "You okay down here?" he asked. I met his eyes. This was the moment. One sentence could change everything, but it had to be the right one. "I'm being held here against my will," I said. No emotion, no panic, just fact. He did not respond immediately. He glanced back up the stairs. Chloe stepped into view behind him, her expression already breaking into tears. "See?" she said, voice trembling. "This is what I was talking about. She thinks we're hurting her." "I'm not confused," I said. The officer looked back at me, then at the papers in his hand, then at Derek. "Sir," the officer said, "do you have legal authority here?" Derek nodded immediately. "Medical guardianship is in process. Temporary authorization based on psychiatric evaluation." He gestured toward the paperwork. The officer looked down at it again, and really I could see the hesitation. Not disbelief, uncertainty. That was worse, because uncertainty leans toward procedure, and procedure does not save you. "Ma'am," the second officer said to Chloe, "has she been violent?" Chloe hesitated just long enough to make it believable. "She hurt my husband," she said quietly. "Broke his wrist." The officer glanced at Derek's arm. Wrapped, swollen, visible, real. That tipped the scale. I saw it happen right there, the shift from concern to compliance. The first officer sighed slightly, then looked back at me. "Valerie," he said, calm but firm, "right now this looks like a family medical situation. I told you I started. I hear you, he interrupted. But we don't have grounds to intervene based on what we're seeing. Of course they did not. Because what they were seeing was exactly what Chloe wanted them to see. I need you to cooperate with your family, he added. I held his gaze, did not argue, did not push. Because pushing now would only confirm their narrative. He nodded once, like that settled it, and turned to walk back upstairs. The second officer followed. The door stayed open just long enough for me to hear the last part. If anything changes, call us, one of them said. Of course, Chloe replied. The front door opened, closed, silence. Then the basement door shut. The lock clicked again. I stood there for a second, letting it settle. Then I heard it, soft at first, then louder. Chloe laughing. She came back down the stairs slowly. No rush this time, no fear, just satisfaction. She stopped a few foot in front of me, arms crossed. Told you, she said. I did not respond. She tilted her head, smiling. Even the law's on my side. I looked at her, calm and steady and completely unmoved. Because what she did not understand was that the law she had just leaned on was not the one that was coming. I stayed exactly where I was after Chloe walked back up the stairs, listening to her laughter fade into the rest of the house. Then came the silence. Not calm silence, tight silence, the kind that builds before something breaks. It did not take long. Footsteps above. Fast. Uneven. Derek. A door slammed hard enough to shake dust loose from the ceiling. Then his voice, louder than before. Not controlled anymore. No, he shouted. I need more time. A muffled response came through, low and sharp. Not from Chloe. Another call. Another voice on the other end. You're not listening, Derek snapped. I told you I'm getting the money. Something hit the wall hard. You don't just show up here. He started again, then stopped. Silence. Then quieter. What do you mean? Tonight? I shifted slightly, leaning closer to the door. That word mattered. Tonight. Fine, Derek said after a long pause. You'll have it. The call ended. A few seconds passed. Then Chloe. What did they say? She asked. They're done waiting, Derek replied. His voice had changed. Less anger, more fear. They can't just, they can, he cut in. And they will. Silence again. Then footsteps pacing. So we finish this, Chloe said finally. Now. I straightened slightly, letting my muscles reset. This was it. No more waiting. No more pressure. Decision point. Call him, Derek said. I already did, Chloe replied. He's on his way. Dr. Thorne. Of course. Time compressed after that. I could feel it. Everything upstairs moved faster, sharper. No more pretending. No more control. Just execution. The door opened without warning. All three of them came down this time. Derek first, pale but focused. Chloe behind him, eyes locked on me. And Dr. Thorne, calm as ever, carrying a small black case. He set it down on the table without a word. Opened it. Inside, medical supplies. Clean, organized, professional. He pulled out a syringe, pre-filled, clear liquid. Not a small dose. Not something you use to calm someone down. Something stronger. I stood up slowly. No more delays, Derek said. We're done asking. Chloe stepped closer, voice sharp. You sign, or we do this the fast way. Dr. Thorne did not look at me. He just prepared the syringe with steady hands. You inject me with that and you're crossing a line you don't come back from? I said. Derek laughed once, dry, empty. You think we're not already past that? I did not answer. Because he was right. They moved in closer. Triangle formation, cutting off angles. Not trained, but aggressive enough. Hold her, Derek said. Chloe did not hesitate. She grabbed my arm first, then my hair, yanked my head back hard enough to expose my neck. Pain shot through, sharp and immediate. I did not react. Did not fight. Not yet. Dr. Thorne stepped forward, syringe in hand. Close. Too close. I could see the measurement marks on the barrel. Calculated. Deliberate. This will help stabilize you, he said calmly. Of course it will, I replied. The needle moved closer. Inches now. Derek tightened his grip on my other arm. You should have signed, he said through clenched teeth. I looked at him. Then at Chloe. Her face was right next to mine now. Eyes wide. Breathing faster. Not fear. excitement. That was the problem. She was not doing this to survive. She was enjoying it. Her grip tightened in my hair, pulling harder. "Look at you," she said. "All that training, all that attitude." She leaned in closer, her voice colder now. "You're nothing." I held her gaze, did not blink, did not move. The needle was inches from my arm now. Dr. Thorne adjusted his angle slightly. Precise, careful. Chloe's voice snapped, loud and sharp, right in my face. "You're just a useless little soldier. No one will save you." The room went still for a fraction of a second, not physically, mentally. That sentence hung there, heavy, final. I looked straight into her eyes and smiled. Not wide, not dramatic, just enough. "You're right," I said quietly. That caught her off guard. Just for a second. Her grip loosened slightly. Dr. Thorne paused. Derek frowned. "What?" Chloe said. I kept my voice calm, even, controlled. "There won't be one person coming to save me," I said. Another half second. Then I leaned forward just enough to close the distance and lowered my voice. "So you should probably start thinking bigger." Chloe's expression shifted. Confusion, then irritation. "What are you talking about?" I held her gaze and finished the sentence. "The whole army." Silence. Real silence this time. Not tension, not noise. A crack in control. Derek let out a short laugh. "You've lost it, Doctor." Thorne shook his head slightly, resetting his focus. "We're proceeding." The needle moved again. "Closer! Closer!" But something had already changed. Not in them, in time, because they were still thinking in minutes, and I was not. I kept my eyes on Chloe as the needle hovered inches from my arm. No flinch, no panic, just timing. Then the air changed. At first it was subtle, a low vibration under my feet, so faint Derek did not even notice. Dr. Thorne did not either. His hand stayed steady, focused on the injection. Chloe was still staring at me, waiting for fear that was never coming. Then the vibration deepened, not from inside the house, from above it. The ceiling creaked. A glass on the table behind them started to rattle. Derek frowned. "What is that?" No one answered, because it was not a question they were ready to understand. The sound came next, distant at first, then building, fast, heavy, wrong for anything local. Not a car, not wind, not thunder, mechanical, layered, powerful. I watched Chloe's expression shift. Confusion, then doubt, then something much closer to fear. The sound hit full force in less than 3 seconds. A deep, violent roar tore across the sky above the house. Close, too close. The entire basement shook. The glass on the table shattered, clean, sharp. Derek staggered back, eyes wide. "What the hell?" The roar got louder. Overhead now, directly above us. Not one source, multiple, 3 at least. I knew the sound before my brain even labeled it. Rotor wash, Black Hawks. Chloe dropped my hair without realizing it. "What is that?" she shouted. No one answered her, because now they could feel it. The pressure, the force. The house itself started to vibrate under the load of displaced air. Outside, something heavy slammed against the structure. Furniture, loose debris, everything getting thrown by the downdraft. Upstairs, glass exploded. Windows, one after another, shattering inward. Derek backed up, panic finally breaking through. "This isn't possible." I stepped away from them. Slow, calm, right on schedule. The first impact came from above. A sharp, controlled breach. Not random, not chaotic. Precise. Then another. And another. Boots hit the roof. Multiple entry points. Fast. Disciplined. Chloe turned toward the stairs, eyes wide now, no control left. "Derek, what is happening?" He did not answer. Because he did not know. But I did. The noise escalated. Commands shouted. Short, clear, professional. Glass breaking. Wood splintering. Flashbang. The first one detonated upstairs. A deafening crack followed by a burst of light that bled down the stairwell. Chloe screamed, covering her ears. Derek dropped to a knee instinctively. "Doctor." Thorne froze completely. Then the second flashbang hit. Closer. The shockwave rolled down the stairs and into the basement like a physical force. The room pulsed. I did not move, did not react, because this was not chaos. This was control. 15 seconds. That was how long it took. From first contact to full breach, the basement door exploded inward, not broken, removed, gone in a single controlled entry. Weapons came first, then bodies. Stacked formation, fast, efficient. At least a dozen operators flooded the room in seconds. Rifles up, scanning, locking targets. Down! Hands where I can see them! Derek collapsed fully this time. Hands up, shaking. This isn't no one listened, doctor. Thorne dropped the syringe. Immediately, both hands raised, his face completely drained of color. He did not even try to speak. There was a dark stain spreading down his pant leg. Chloe stood frozen near the stairs. Eyes locked on the soldiers like she had stopped processing reality entirely. "On your knees," one of the operators barked. She did not move. He stepped forward, weapon steady. "I said, on your knees." That broke her. She dropped hard, hands up, breathing fast. The room filled with controlled noise, boots, commands, radios crackling, every angle covered, every threat neutralized. And then silence again. Not empty, secured. A path opened through the operators, deliberate, intentional, and he stepped through it. Major General Marcus Croft, full uniform, calm, unshaken. He did not look at Derek, did not look at Chloe, did not even acknowledge Dr. Thorne. They did not exist to him. He walked straight toward me, stopped exactly one step away, then snapped into a perfect salute, sharp, clean, respectful. "Captain Vance," he said. His voice was steady, professional, but there was something under it, something rare. "Rapid response unit is on site. Apologies for the delay, ma'am." The room went completely still. Derek stared at him like he had just heard something impossible. Chloe's face lost what little color it had left. "Captain," she whispered. I looked at her, then back at Croft and returned the salute. "At ease, General," I said. He lowered his hand. Behind him, the operators adjusted slightly, maintaining position. Derek's voice came out broken. No, this doesn't make sense." Chloe shook her head, backing away on her knees. "She's lying. She's not," Croft said flatly. That shut everything down completely. He did not raise his voice. He did not need to. Two operators stepped forward and secured Derek, pulling his hands behind his back. Another moved toward Dr. Thorne. Chloe did not resist. She just stared at me, trying to understand, trying to rebuild some version of reality where she was still in control. There was not one. I adjusted my coat slightly, rolling my shoulders once to loosen the tension. Then I stepped forward past them. Not rushed, not dramatic, just done. Behind me, the room stayed locked under control. Ahead of me, the stairs led out. And for the first time in 2 days, I did not have to calculate the next move. I stepped out of the basement and into a house that did not belong to Chloe anymore. The air upstairs was chaos, but controlled chaos. Broken glass everywhere, furniture overturned, cold air rushing in through shattered windows. The sound of rotor blades still cutting through the sky above, steady and overwhelming. Operators moved through the house with precision, clearing rooms, calling positions, securing every corner. And then I saw the second layer. Not military, federal, FBI jackets, DHS identifiers, calm faces, sharp eyes. Already working. That is how it works. The military gets you out, the government handles what comes after. I walked forward without stopping. No one blocked me. No one questioned me. A soldier handed me my coat on the way past. My actual coat. They had recovered it. I put it on without a word. Behind me, I could hear Derek shouting now, not angry anymore, desperate. "This is a mistake. I didn't know who she was," he yelled. "You can't do this." An FBI agent did not even look at him while tightening the cuffs. "That's not going to help you." Derek's voice cracked. "I didn't know. I swear." "Doesn't matter," the agent replied. "You held a federal intelligence officer against her will while under financial pressure from foreign entities." Silence hit him in the middle of the sentence. That was when it landed. Not what he did. What it meant. Another agent stepped in, reading charges like it was routine. Kidnapping, coercion, fraud. Pending review for national security violations. Derek's legs gave out. He dropped to his knees. I didn't mean he started. No one listened. Because intent does not erase outcome. Across the room, Chloe was still frozen where they had pulled her up. 2 agents moved in, securing her wrists. That was when she finally snapped out of it. "No," she said, pulling back. "No, you don't get to touch me." They did not slow down. "I didn't do anything," she shouted. "This is her fault," she lied. One of the agents tightened the cuffs. "Ma'am, you need to calm down." "I am calm," she screamed. She was not. She turned her head and saw me standing near the doorway. That was when it broke completely. "You did this," she shouted. "You ruined everything." I looked at her, did not step closer, did not raise my voice. "You did that yourself," I said. She shook her head violently. No, you set me up. You." An agent pulled her toward the exit. "Ma'am, you're under arrest." "For what?" she yelled. The agent did not hesitate. "Kidnapping, fraud, conspiracy, and obstruction." Her voice cracked. "You can't prove anything." The agent paused just long enough to look at her. "We don't need to prove everything, just enough." They led her toward the door. She fought harder now, not physically effective, just loud, desperate. "This is my house," she screamed. "You can't take me out of my own house." No one corrected her, because it was not her house anymore. Outside, the scene was worse. Vida. 3 Black Hawks hovering low, kicking up snow and debris in violent waves. Federal vehicles lined the driveway, lights flashing, a controlled perimeter already established. And then I saw them. My parents, Arthur and Patricia, standing just outside the containment line, faces pale, eyes wide, trying to process something they were never meant to see. Mom spotted me first. "Valerie," she cried, breaking forward before an agent stopped her. "Ma'am, you need to stay back." "She's my daughter," she said, struggling against his grip. "Please, just let me talk to her." Dad stepped forward too, voice shaking. "Val, we didn't know. We swear we didn't know." I walked toward them. Slow. Measured. The agent stepped aside without being asked. Mom dropped to her knees the second I got close. Actually dropped in the snow. "Please," she said, crying openly now. "We didn't know what they were planning. We thought it was just dinner. Just fixing things." Dad followed, not kneeling, but close enough. "We would never let this happen to you. You have to believe that." I looked at both of them. Really looked. Not at what they were saying. At what they did. They left in a storm without question, without hesitation, without checking. That was what mattered. "I called you," Mom said. "I begged you to come." "Yes," I said. Her voice broke. "Because I missed you." I held her gaze. "No," I replied. "Because you needed me." That hit harder than anything else in the last 2 days. Dad shook his head. "That's not fair." "No," I said. "What happened down there wasn't fair." Silence settled between us. Heavy. Final. Mom reached toward me slightly, hands trembling. "Please. We're still your family." I stepped back, just enough to make it clear. "No," I said. Her face collapsed. I did not raise my voice. I did not need to. "Family doesn't walk away and leave you in a storm," I continued. "Family doesn't ignore what's right in front of them because it's easier." Dad opened his mouth to respond. I did not let him. "Whatever we had ended the moment you drove away." Mom started crying harder. Dad looked like he wanted to argue. He did not, because there was nothing left to argue with. I turned away from them. Conversation over. Behind me, Chloe was being escorted past a vehicle, still shouting, still fighting. "You think you've won?" She screamed. "This isn't over!" One of the agents pushed her forward. "It is for you!" She caught one last look at me. Hatred, fear, collapse, all at once. Then she was gone, loaded into a vehicle, doors shut, just like that, finished. I walked toward the helicopter without stopping. The wind hit harder the closer I got, pulling at my coat, forcing my eyes to narrow. An operator stepped aside, giving me a clear path. I grabbed the side handle and stepped up. Inside, it was loud, controlled. Ready. I took a seat and secured the harness. No hesitation. No looking back. The door stayed open for a second longer, just long enough for me to see the house one last time. Broken, exposed, empty. Then it closed. The helicopter lifted fast, clean. The ground dropped away. The house shrank beneath us, then disappeared into the trees and snow. And just like that, so did everything that came with it. The silence after everything ended felt louder than the helicopters. No shouting, no chaos, no glass breaking, just quiet. I sat alone later that night, back at base, still wearing the same coat, still feeling the cold in my bones even though the room was warm. That kind of cold does not leave right away. It stays with you like a reminder, not of what happened, of what it meant. People think the worst part of a situation like that is the moment you realize someone is trying to hurt you. It is not. The worst part is realizing how many people saw it coming and did nothing. My sister did not surprise me. Not really. Chloe had always been predictable. She needed attention, control, validation. If she did not get it, she created it. Sometimes loudly, sometimes quietly, but always in a way that made her the center of the room. That part never changed. What changed was how far she was willing to go. And what broke me was not that she crossed that line, it was that no one stopped her. My parents had a choice that night. They saw the tension, they heard the way she talked to me. They felt how wrong the whole situation was, and they left anyway. That is the part people do not like to talk about, because it is easier to blame the obvious villain. Harder to admit that sometimes the real damage comes from the people who stay silent. I used to think family meant something automatic, like a built-in safety net. Like no matter what happened out there would be at least one place where I did not have to watch my back. That idea did not survive that basement. Here is the truth no one likes to say out loud. DNA does not make someone loyal. Time does not make someone trustworthy. And just because someone shares your last name does not mean they will stand up for you when it actually matters. What I went through was not just betrayal. It was a system. One person gets protected, one person gets ignored, and everyone else pretends it is normal. Chloe was not just allowed to act that way. She was reinforced. Every excuse my parents made for her. Every time they told me to be the bigger person. Every time they chose comfort over confrontation. They were building that outcome piece by piece. People like to call that keeping the peace. It is not. It is avoiding responsibility. And eventually, that avoidance cost someone else everything. In this case, that someone was me. But I'm not saying this so you feel sorry for me. I am saying it because a lot of you are living in smaller versions of the same situation. Maybe no one locked you in a basement, but maybe someone in your life constantly disrespects you. Maybe someone talks down to you, dismisses you, makes you feel small, and everyone around you just lets it happen. That is not harmless. That is a pattern. And patterns do not fix themselves. They grow, they escalate, until one day you are standing in a situation wondering how things got this bad. They did not get bad overnight. They were allowed to get there. So here is what I learned the hard way. Watch what people do, not what they say. Anyone can say they love you. Anyone can say they care. But when things get uncomfortable, when standing up for you costs them something, that is when you find out who they really are. Set boundaries early. Not after things fall apart. Not after someone crosses the line. Before. The first time someone disrespects you and gets away with it, you just taught them it is acceptable. And people repeat what works. Stop waiting for people to change into who you need them to be. That version of them might not exist. And the longer you wait, the more you invest in something that was never real to begin with. That is a hard truth. But it is a necessary one. Because once you accept it, you stop trying to fix people who were never trying to meet you halfway, and you start protecting yourself instead. I used to think cutting people off meant you failed somehow, like you did not try hard enough. Now I see it differently. Sometimes walking away is not failure. It is clarity. It is recognizing that staying in the wrong place does not make you loyal. It just makes you available to be hurt again. What happened to me forced that clarity. It stripped everything down to one simple question. Who actually shows up when it matters? Not when it is easy. Not when it is convenient. When it is hard. When it costs them something. That is your answer. Everything else is noise. The hardest truth I walked away with was not that my sister tried to destroy me. It was that the people who were supposed to protect me chose not to. I leaned back in the chair later and let my hands rest still for the first time in 2 days. No restraints. No cold concrete. No one watching for a reaction. Just space. And that was when the question hit me. The one people always ask after something like this. How did you stay calm? They expect a complicated answer. Training. Experience. Discipline. And yes, those things help, but really, they are not the reason. The real reason is simpler. I never gave them control over my mind. People think survival is about strength. It is not. It is about control, not control over the situation. You do not always get that. Control over yourself. That is the difference. Most people lose the moment they panic, not because they are weak, but because panic makes decisions for them. And panic never cares about consequences. When I was locked in that basement, I did not waste energy fighting things I could not change. I could not break the door. I could not call for help. I could not overpower 3 people at once, especially not with a weapon involved. So I did not try. That is where most people go wrong. They react, they fight the wrong battle at the wrong time, and they lose before the real moment even comes. Instead, I did 3 things. First, I controlled my emotions. Not by ignoring them, by managing them. Fear showed up. Of course it did. But I did not let it drive. I did not scream. I did not beg. I did not react in a way that gave them what they wanted, because people like Chloe feed on reaction. The moment you lose control, you hand them power. Second, I paid attention. Not just to what they said, to how they said it. Derek was not confident. He was desperate. That matters. Desperate people make mistakes. Chloe was not in control. She was pretending to be. That matters too. Because when someone needs to prove they are in charge, it usually means they are not as secure as they look. I watched patterns. Who spoke first? Who backed down? Who pushed harder when things did not go their way? That gave me leverage. Not physical leverage, strategic leverage. Third, I chose when to act. That is the part people misunderstand the most. They think strength means acting immediately. It does not. Sometimes strength means waiting, holding back, letting the other person believe they have already won. Because the moment someone thinks they are in control, they stop being careful. That is when opportunities show up, not before. That is why I did not fight Chloe when she had the shotgun. That is why I did not push back when the police were standing right there. That is why I let them believe I was breaking, because I was not trying to win every moment. I was waiting for the right one. Now, that is where this matters for you. You do not need to be trapped in a basement to use any of this. You are already in situations where it applies. Work, relationships, family, any place where someone tries to control the narrative, the outcome, or you. And the mistake most people make is simple. They react too fast. Your boss talks down to you, you snap back. A family member disrespects you, you argue. Someone manipulates you. You try to prove them wrong, immediately. That feels strong. It is not. It is predictable. And predictable people are easy to control. So here is what actually works. Do not react immediately. Give yourself space, even a few seconds. That pause changes everything. It keeps you in control instead of handing it away. Observe before you act. Watch patterns. Who is emotional? Who is calculated? Who is bluffing? Most people reveal more than they think. You just have to stop talking long enough to notice it. Control what you show. You do not need to broadcast everything you feel. You do not need to prove anything in the moment. The more controlled you look, the more uncertain the other person becomes. And uncertainty is leverage. Pick your moment. Not every situation deserves your energy. Not every argument needs a response. Sometimes the smartest move is to wait until the outcome actually matters. Then act clean, decisive, final. That is how you shift control. Not by being louder, not by being more aggressive, by being more intentional. I did not survive because I was stronger than them. Derek was bigger. Chloe had a weapon. They controlled the environment. But none of that mattered, because they never controlled how I thought. And once you keep that, you are never fully trapped, no matter what it looks like from the outside. I stood by the window later that night, looking out at nothing in particular, just letting my mind run back through everything that led up to those 2 days. And the truth hit me harder than anything that happened in that basement. None of it started there. Not the plan, not the betrayal, not even the danger. It started years earlier. Small moments, easy to ignore, easy to explain away. Chloe did not become that person overnight. She just stopped hiding it, and I stopped paying attention. That is the part people do not like to admit. We see the signs. We just do not treat them like they matter. I can think of a dozen moments now that should have told me exactly who she was. The way she turned every conversation into a competition, the way she twisted things just enough to make herself the victim, The way she smiled while saying something meant to cut. At the time, I called it personality. Now, I call it a pattern. Derek had his own signs. Too many vague answers. Too many big deals that never made sense. Too comfortable talking about money that did not feel clean. But I did not question it because it was not my problem. That is another lie people tell themselves. If it is not affecting me, it is not important until it is. And then it is too late to go back and ask better questions. My parents were the clearest example, and the hardest one to accept. They saw everything. They just chose the version of reality that was easier to live with. Every time Chloe crossed a line, they softened it. She does not mean it like that. Every time I pushed back, they redirected it. Just let it go. Every time something felt off, they minimized it. It is not a big deal. That is how red flags survive. Not because they are invisible, because people keep repainting them, calling them something else, something easier, something less uncomfortable, until one day they are not small anymore. They are not subtle. They are not ignorable. And by then, they have already done the damage. I used to think ignoring problems kept things stable. It does not. It delays the impact. And when it hits harder, because now it is built on years of things that were never addressed. So let me make this simple. If someone consistently disrespects you, that is a red flag. Not once. Not on a bad day. Consistently. If someone manipulates conversations to make you question your own memory, that is a red flag. If someone only shows up when they need something, that is a red flag. If someone tries to control your money, your choices, or your independence, that is a red flag. If someone isolates you or makes you feel like you are the problem every time something goes wrong, that is a red flag. And here is the part most people miss. You do not need 5 signs. You do not need proof beyond doubt. You do not need a dramatic moment to justify taking action. One clear pattern is enough. Because patterns do not stay the same. They grow. They get bolder. They test how much they can get away with. And every time you let something slide, you are not keeping the peace. You are expanding the boundary of what is acceptable. That is how situations like mine happen. Not overnight, not out of nowhere, through a series of ignored warnings that slowly build into something bigger. So what do you do differently? First, stop minimizing what you feel. If something feels off, it usually is. You do not need to explain it perfectly. You just need to acknowledge it. Second, set boundaries early, not aggressively, not emotionally. Clearly, you do not talk to me like that. That does not work for me. I am not okay with this. Simple, direct, no debate. Third, pay attention to how people respond to those boundaries. That tells you everything. Respect means adjustment. Disrespect means escalation. And that is your answer. Fourth, create distance when needed. Not as punishment, as protection. You do not owe anyone unlimited access to you, not even family. Especially not family if they have already proven they cannot handle it. And finally, act before things become irreversible. Because once a situation crosses a certain line, you are not managing a problem anymore. You are surviving it. And those are two very different places to be. Looking back, I did not get trapped because I was weak. I got trapped because I ignored things that should never have been ignored. That is the part I own. But I do not carry guilt for it. I carry clarity. Because now I know exactly what to look for, exactly where to draw the line, exactly when to walk away. And if there is one thing I want you to take from all of this, it is this. The moment you ignore a red flag, you are not giving someone another chance. You are giving them permission. If this story stayed with you, leave your thoughts below. If it meant something, a like or a subscribe helps more than you think.